during the GameStop short squeeze of January 2021. I'm serious, tell me, because it's really rare that a new biopic is about something that everyone who sees it can remember and might have even been a part of, because there was somehow enough time for these events to be turned into a book by Ben Mesrick, who, by the way, also wrote the book that The Social Network was based on, The Accidental Billionaires, and then for that book to be adapted into a movie directed by Craig Gillespie, who did I, Tonya and Cruella, all in the span of 2 years and partly during COVID. And that kind of shows in Dumb Money. I would not describe this film as either profound or particularly refined, but there's definitely fun to be had, especially with the meme-filled David and Goliath story and an awesome, surprisingly awesome ensemble cast. And emphasis on meme because a lot of this revolves around the Reddit forum Wall Street Bets and their messiah, Keith Gill, who's played here by none other than Paul Dano. He is what Christian Bale was in The Big Short, the guy who saw what no one else saw and stuck to his guns. And in this case, he saw that Wall Street was betting against GameStop, but he liked the stock. He thought they were undervaluing it, and with the power of social media, this giant movement caught on that resulted in one of the craziest things in stock market history. GameStop stock shot to the moon, a bunch of people made a ton of money, Wall Street lost millions, if not billions of dollars. And where the GameStop stock is now and how much this actually did or didn't change this broken system is a whole other conversation that we'll table for the sake of the review. But this film is exploring how these conditions of COVID and modern social media culture sparked this very singular historic moment of class warfare in the stock market. And this is going to be compared a lot to The Big Short, obviously because they're about really similar events, The Big Short being about the stock market crash in 2008. But there's also very obvious structural and tonal inspiration here from The Big Short. In the build-up, it's cross-cutting between all the different types of people who can be affected by this, good and bad. The billionaires and the average Joes, the two guys who created Robin Hood, who were played by Sebastian Stan and Rishi Koda, and they were very funny. And I liked the detail of them showing everyone's net worth before and after it happened. Like Anthony Ramos's character, who worked at GameStop, had $136 to his name beforehand, whereas Seth Rogen had $400 million. There are two girls in college who have like negative $130,000 in debt, and that was me during this, by the way. I was a senior in college, and I will live out my days with gnawing jealousy that I didn't get on the GameStop train. Paul Dano as Keith Gill is far and away the greatest part of this film, which I guess is not super surprising, but his character is just a cool character, but he also gets the most development, and I also loved his dynamic with Shailene Woodley as his wife. She reminded me a lot of Anne Hathaway's role in Dark Waters. In real life, Keith Gill is the definition of a hero. I mean, providing all of this free information and helping people get all this money, and once he pulled out and made millions, he completely faded out of the public eye to live out his life peacefully with his family. That is legend behavior. But my personal favorite of everyone was a, I guess, cameo that I'm not even gonna spoil because they aren't really putting his name anywhere, so I'm thinking maybe they were trying to keep it a secret. If they are, it's like so random but made me so happy. All I'll say for people who have seen it, or if you're gonna see it, is that he has braces. But Clancy Brown is also here. Again, Seth Rogen, America Ferrera, Nick Offerman, Vincent D'Onofrio. And I just realized I literally forgot about Pete Davidson, who might have been the funniest one in the film. I'm always stubborn with Pete Davidson. When I see him in the beginning, I'm like, God damn you, Pete Davidson. But by the end, I'm like, okay, fine, you're pretty funny. He had this whole bit. He plays Paul Dano's brother, and they had this whole bit of running through lightning with your dick out, and I actually was like vaguely inspired by it. And I think it all ends on a good note. My biggest issues with the film came probably around like through the first act. I thought it really dragged because it's cutting between all these characters, but there's no through line, and since it's not developing anyone very much, you're kind of like, okay, like where are we headed? But once they start adding in these concrete events like the whole Robin Hood debacle and the big hearing, it actually gets really exciting. But all that said, this is gonna be compared a lot to The Big Short, but it's just not. To me, this feels way more in line with a streaming movie than our greatest biopics, and that's for a couple of reasons. For one, it's very surface level. There's not a lot of character development going on, and it's just missing that really layered and biting interrogation that The Big Short had. Like, The Big Short had claws, and it was really exciting because you didn't really know what it was going to do next. And Dumb Money is certainly getting at the same things, but it's just not at that level. And again, Craig Gillespie directed this, and to put it lightly, it's not his best effort. It gets points for taking place in Boston, but it's very flat visually and ironically very risk-averse considering what the movie is about. And I was excited because I enjoyed both Cruella and I, Tonya. I thought this was really well suited to him, but there was just a certain energy that was lacking from this that I think it really needed. And it manages to capture it a little bit with the social media culture that was going on at the time, like the editing of that whole thing. But otherwise, it just feels a little bit lazy. The needle drops are like the most basic TikTok songs you can think of, and it does manage to strike this interesting chord of like capturing what it was like at that time during COVID and all of that stuff, but there's a limit. I don't need to hear Savage like 4 times. And I'm sure some of this was because of this tight turnaround, especially in the way that it feels like this was a script that was definitely written in 2021 and didn't fully get updated for something to be released now, but it doesn't really make a difference. We've gotten a lot of biopics this year, and I'd say that this is definitely not as good as like Air, but is better than Tetris or like the Hot Cheeto movie. The Hot Cheeto movie, though, was better than I was expecting it to be. So even though I wanted this to be better, it doesn't have to be the next Big Short for it to be a decent time at the movies. So I'm going to give Dumb Money 3 out of 5 stars. We like the stock. We don't love it. I would personally not spend $20 to see this film in theaters, but it's also not like there are a ton of great options right now. So you know yourself, if it seems like something that you would be into, go for it. The cast is great, and it is kind of interesting to see a take on something that was so recent. But let me know your thoughts on Dumb Money, guys. Are you gonna head out to see it this weekend? Don't forget to like and subscribe, and keep an eye out for more videos soon. Thanks for watching.